Greetings, everyone. We now enter into this fourth Sunday of Ordinary Time in the year 2026. And as we reflect on the scripture readings, especially the gospel reading, we are given this very, very beautiful gospel reading from St. Matthew, chapter 5, verses 1 to 12. Right? And this gospel reading is about the Beatitudes. The Beatitudes. So oftentimes we've heard of these Beatitudes. In fact, we memorize them as well, right? These 8 Beatitudes that Jesus teach his disciples. Beatitude means blessedness. And one of the questions that we often ask is, what does it mean to be truly blessed? Because it's so easy to talk about blessings, and especially like when we talk about that, people think of material blessings. They think of, oh, you know what? I got this new car, I got this new house, I got this new wonderful computer or whatever that's meaningful to me, right? But blessedness goes much deeper than just any material things that we can think of. And so I'd like to just draw our attention there. So if we think about it, one of the important things in life, perhaps the meaning of life, as you know, some of us may be able to say, is happiness, right? It is the philosopher Aristotle who teaches us that every single person is in pursuit of happiness. Now, the question is, what does happiness mean? And even more particularly, what does happiness mean to us, right? Particularly to each individual person. Because if you ask each person, hey, what does happiness mean? You know, he'll give you an answer. Hey, what does happiness mean? She'll give you a different answer, right? Each person seemingly have a different understanding of what that means. But I think if we reduce everything down to whatever it is they say, it comes down to blessedness, right? It comes down to blessings. So what does it truly mean to be blessed? And what that really entails is if we look at our own lives, right, and if we see the the hand of God, you know, basically guiding us through, especially the moments of trials and challenges and darkness and difficulties in our lives, we realize that the blessings are what God sends our ways to help shape us into the person that we are today. And even more specifically, the holy person that we are today. If we take a look at our own personal lives, right, all of us are called to become saints. We're all called to become saints. But if we look at our own lives, we're all at the same time sinners, right? We all have so many problems in our lives, so many mistakes, so many things that we need God's grace to help us to do better. And so we rely on God's help, especially to draw us out of moments of despair, challenges, struggles, temptation, etc. Right? And so blessings really come from God, and it also is a reflection of how we use God's gifts, everything that He has given to us, not for ourselves, but for His greater glory. Ultimately, you know, we're all stewards. In other words, we're all managers of everything that God has given to us, right? The gifts, the talents, the treasures, uh, you know, the time, everything that we are given there. And so how do we use this to glorify God in every circumstance, in everything that it is that we're called to do? Now, looking at it practically in our lives, right? And going back to this whole question of the Beatitudes, blessedness. Now, we have to look at it from the perspective of the world and from the perspective of what Jesus truly teaches us, what true blessedness is. If we go around and we ask other people, hey, what is blessed? What does blessings mean to you, right? We can become very materialistic once again and give like a laundry list of all the great things that we've accomplished or all the, you know, material possessions that we have. But then that is too shallow, right? We have to go a lot deeper, and to see that true blessedness is when we recognize that everything comes from God, everything belongs to God, and that we use all these things not for ourselves, but for God's greater glory. So if you take a look at the categories, right, there are four categories of what you can say like as very important. And actually this comes from the um, the great theologian Saint Thomas Aquinas, right? And so if you talk about this great four, it is wealth, power, honor, and pleasure, right? All those four that we hear of very often. And so what do these things do? Well, many of us are in pursuit of these things that we think if we have them, it will bring us blessedness and happiness, right? Well, happiness first and then blessedness. And we realize, firstly, that happiness is not just, a feeling and emotion. It has to be much deeper, right? And as we look for something deeper, we're truly looking for what it means to be blessed. And again, when we reflect deeply enough in our lives and when we see the hand of God guiding us to where we are today, this very moment, we realize, wow, the blessings come from God, right? He leads us and guides us to this point here and always to a good and better place. And of course, too, with these material things, they are nice to have. It's great, but true blessedness is not about those things. It is about our recognition that everything we have is for God and that we're all called to do one great thing, and that is to do everything in our lives for God's greater glory. When we live not for ourselves, right, for our own ego and, how we can become a bigger person, when we live not like that, but when we live for Christ, when we live for others, that is when we come to recognize true blessedness. And the final blessing, the beatitude, right? The blessedness is heaven, right? We're all on a journey, as we recall last year with the Jubilee year of mercy, Jubilee year, where we're reminded that we're all on a journey together, right? Pilgrims of hope. We're all on this journey to heaven, and heaven is where true blessedness is. And so if heaven is where true blessedness is, and that is our end, our goal, our destination, then how do we get there? And so practically, we get there by having faith and trust and building this relationship with Jesus each day and to become more and more like Christ. And so on this fourth Sunday in ordinary time, as we reflect on the Beatitudes, the blessedness, we truly put into practice how do we live lives of blessedness now in this very moment and every moment of our lives so that one day we share in the blessedness of the saints in heaven. May God bless you.